I elevate and empower doctors and leaders.
Oh my God, this might be the high point of this podcast.
Industry are desperately needing doctor talent and leadership.
I left medicine for 4 years.
Because I went to Nottingham, and Nottingham are for people who think outside of the box. We guarantee it because we've seen consistently over the last few years.
It's big doctor energy. So today is a special edition. As you can see me grinning from ear to ear, just because I've got a special guest. I've been on her podcast, but prior to being on her podcast, I've been trying to get her on my own podcast because she's the queen of alternative careers for doctors. I'll just give you this quote, which is basically from the website. We are doctors on a mission to connect 1 million doctors with the best, diverse, and alternative careers for doctors. And of course, it all sounds like talk. Anyone can talk, except that she's been doing it for the past 10 years. She's not just a doctor, she's an entrepreneur, and she's been a mentor to thousands and thousands of doctors. And I'm talking about the founder of Medic Footprint and also sort of heading doctors in industry. So help me make welcome Dr. Abeyna Bubbers-Jones.
Oh, what a warm welcome. Thank you so much, Andy. It's a real pleasure to be here on the other side.
How does it feel being on the other side, being interviewed as a podcast host? How does it feel?
Oh, it's great. Well, if you've listened to any other podcasts I've been on, it's a really great experience because I can talk more, and I can also interview you at the same time. I have this way. You know, I know.
Okay, I'm going to be learning that. Yeah, it's very different energy because when you're on a podcast, so I've been on maybe 12, 15 podcasts this year, and when you're it's been quite a few podcasts, and when you're on a podcast, you're trying to make sure the sound and video and everything is going all right. When you're the guest, it's a bit different, right? So let's get right into it. I know you're a busy woman. When you're not busy running businesses, you're occupational physician, so you're consultant in occupational medicine. When you're not doing that, you're busy running half marathons in your spare time. Who does that? I can see the medal you've got on as well. Yeah, excellent. Let's have a look.
This is literally my proudest achievement of the year, I have to say. Long story short, I went to Palma, Mallorca. It's part of a reunion of friends, and it just happened that they were organizing this marathon. And I'm not a runner, but I was at a point where I was like, actually, this is an opportunity to improve my fitness and get out more, like the actual process of preparing for this. It was like, I wasn't sure because it gives you the option of 5K, 9K, half marathon, full marathon. So I thought it's more interesting because the other ones are just on the coast. And so I went for it and did it. And so I had two goals. One was to finish.
Okay.
And two,
that is a big goal on his own.
One was to finish, and two was not to stop running. And I achieved both of those goals.
Wow.
There was only one point where I very slightly, and that was only because my kids were at the side of the road cheering me on. So I ran back and gave them some kisses and kept running. They were handing out like drinks and bananas and stuff, and like I would literally run, pick up a drink, drop it, keep running, like there wouldn't be any stopping. There were toilets as well. When I started, I realized I really needed the loo, but I was like, I'm not stopping for that either. So
Oh no, this is so inspiring. It's such a pump. And I mean, as a committed member of the non-runners club for the past 10 years, it might make me give up my membership now. I think the last time I did anything long distance like that was more than 10 years. That is so brilliant.
I mean, like for me, the only long distance I did was when I was living in South Africa doing trauma surgery around 2010. There was this, I lived in Mtunzini, which is on the coast. It's a beautiful nature. And they had this 16K bush run, which is like basically cross country around this reserve. And I only heard about it the day before. The people I was living with, they were like runners, and they were like, yeah, it's like only 16K, it's not much, blah, blah, blah. Anyone can do it. And so again, like my mindset was like, oh, anyone can do it, so I'll just do it. And so I did it. There was some walking with that one because some of it was on the beach. and the beach it was very soft, and I was like, I cannot run on this.
Run in the sand.
So, but yeah, again, it's like my mindset was like, it's inevitable. I'm just going to finish this. So I'm just going to do it. No training, like zero training, and that was the only other time I've done a race.
That is crazy. I mean, I live in Devon and Cornwall, so I train in Cornwall. So you run on the beach is lovely. It's good for the feet as well, but
it is.
You kind of have that sinky feeling, isn't it?
Yeah, when it's soft, it's just like, it's really hardcore.
I'm going to come back to this run because obviously you went to Palma. You thought the best way to see the city wasn't to walk around or to get on a bus or something. It was to run around.
Just to run around, honestly.
I'm going to come back to it. And it seems like you didn't quite have that long time to prepare for it. And then the last time you did something monumentous like that was when you were in South Africa. Now, if you're an ultra marathon runner and you heard me call 16K monumentous, yes, for a minute, just allow it for now. But 16K is quite a bit of it's a huge achievement in my own sort of like view. But there's that big power of the role of naivety to not sort of like, 16K is no big deal. I wonder how much of that has played a role in your whole career as you started out maybe in your 20s as a doctor in training. I'm going to come back to that. But before we get lost, because you're a woman of many parts, this is how to get financially smarter in just 5 minutes. Sometimes the difference between making smarter financial decisions and costly, horrible financial mistakes is having the right information at the right time for the right person. So every week I write the Moneywise Doctor weekly newsletter. It's an email newsletter packed full with valuable financial insights and updates to help you make smarter financial decisions and avoid costly mistakes. Some of the areas I've been covering over the last 70 weeks include actionable tips on tax strategies, pensions, investing, side hustles, and several other financial areas. Now, join thousands of medics who subscribe to the Moneywise Doctor weekly newsletter to receive it straight to your inbox, and it's totally free. Don't miss out. Subscribe now using the link in the description. And now let's jump right back to the episode. How do you introduce yourself? How would you, if someone came up to you and said, give me just 1 minute pitch, 60 seconds, who is Dr. Abeyna Bubbers-Jones?
I elevate and empower doctors and leaders.
How? I love that. That sounds so high level now. I mean, we say things like I help doctors make smarter financial decisions, or I help doctors avoid costly mistakes, but this is now elevate.
This is what I teach, man. Like, that's got if I don't get it, right? You know? Yeah, that's it.
I'm looking at your LinkedIn. It says, I'm bringing you with me. I want to go. Just looking at that, I want to go. That's amazing.
Come with
All
me.
right. So let's jumping into that. Let's say, okay, let's break it down a little bit more. What does that really mean?
What does elevating empower? I mean, it basically means what it is. It is bringing the best inherent talent out of some of the most ambitious and talented people in the world to ensure that they can really do their best work and impact at scale, and do it whilst being happy, healthy, non-burnout, and sustainable, and enjoying life.
You are demonstrating that, you know, when people come to doctors in industry or alternative careers in medicine, part of what they learn, I suppose, is speech, how to sort of like have that social pitch, introducing yourself. Here, you've given us a 1 minute masterclass, even a few seconds masterclass, because that leads me to say, tell me more. It's not like, oh yeah, all right, okay, you've got a forum. Now I'm thinking, oh, what is it? It takes a bit of courage and boldness to say what you do in that certain confidence, right? There are a few more things you do that outside being a doctor, but as usual, you can do anything, but like you say, sometimes you can't do everything. Obviously, I know you're a classically trained, musician, while I'm a self-trained pianist that only plays for a small audience of one or two.
I mean, that's incredible. That is honestly self-taught people. I like, hats off to them. So yeah, hats off to you. Hats off to you. No matter how small the audience. Well, you can scale that, any day.
This is about you. I think I was playing around when I was 14. I was playing for small audiences of weddings and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Then you have to choose what you do. But yeah, so for someone listening who didn't really quite get the full impact of what Abeyna does. So you run a platform called Medic Footprints, and for the past 10 years, I didn't say 10 months, I mean 10 years, a whole decade.
That's been a long
10
time.
years, someone would have been in medical school, out of medical school, got into a training midway. Probably if you're in GP training, might almost be done.
And I've seen people go through that journey, I've seen them from medical school to which is great. It's really rewarding. It's really, really rewarding to see people as they progress through their careers over time. I never anticipated that I'd still be doing this after a decade, to be honest, but I am.
It's very satisfying to see that huge impact.
Mm-hmm.
So now that is part of what you do, but also recently you've got you've been doing it for a while, but it seems it's being crystallized. Doctors in industry, doctors who want to go straight from being clinicians, don't really know where to start from, and then want to go into areas like pharma, consulting, health tech, may have the skills, but don't yet know how to put them together and put their best step forward. So that's where the elevating comes in, isn't it? You elevate them. Right. Okay. So why did you start all this? There's a certain type of person who says, well, I don't want to just be a doctor by the clinic, bedside. What led to all this? I'm curious.
And no, actually, it's so funny because I just came from conducting our stage 2 interviews with a doctor for the fellowship who actually asked exactly the same question. And it's quite difficult because my journey started before I even got into medicine. I think that's the case for a lot of doctors who end up going on this journey. And for me, as you know, it was either musical medicine, as going to med school or university, and I chose medicine because it was just like, the sensible option.
yeah
The sensible option. However, I had all this creative power within me and skills within me that just wasn't nurtured as a doctor, wasn't really valued. And again, it took time, it took what's within me as well to then start looking at other options. And that took, long story short, it took me to South Africa doing trauma surgery, which I loved. Wow. And I realized actually I do love medicine. It was just the system that was the issue. Because working in South Africa in the public healthcare system, great, but also has its own challenges, But I realized that I did love the practice of medicine and the opportunities that were way beyond what we were told. Because I remember going to medical school, you're told you're either going to be a GP or you're going to be a hospital medicine doctor, and that's about it. That's it. And actually, that's not it. But that's generally what you would that's what they're training you for, basically. And so it was that opened up my mind, and then conversations with a variety of different doctors who I was working with, who knew of doctors who had left or have developed their careers. Again, it was all myth and folklore at the time. And so developing Medic Footprints was really to open up and just dispel all the myths and basically present the realities of the variety of options out there and the pathways on actually getting there, really. So very much steeped in community, storytelling, inspiration, opportunities, and wanting to do something outside of the NHS. I realized that when I ended up in Blackburn. For those of you that didn't know Blackburn, because I didn't know Blackburn before I got the job, it's north of Manchester in the north of England.
Okay.
I mean, I did love living in the north, but I'm a London girl, So I was like, I can't, why the hell am I still moving around the country for my clinical job, right? What am I going for? So it's a series of experiences, decisions, and making very focused decisions. Because when I was in Blackburn, I quit my urology training number against the advice of obviously the people in the NHS, and said I'm just going to move back to London and do urology there, and I did. And then after I got
not like a trust grade or.
Yeah, so it was actually it was a LAT, it was a locum trainee post. And then I got hematuria in my face. It wasn't the first time I got hematuria in my face, but I remember a very specific moment where I was doing a bladder washout and I was like, no, that's it. No more hematuria in my face. I want something else for my life.
Oh my God, this might be the high point of this podcast.
Yeah, and so ironically actually went to occupational medicine to do the whole body fluid exposure thingy. And I just didn't know what I wanted to do actually after that, because like I knew medicine was still there. I didn't want to do GP. I've been like refused from GP a few years earlier anyway, because there weren't even enough jobs around. And then I applied again. As a urology registrar. I was still refused because I didn't have my foundation competencies, even though like, you know, that whole kind of like bureaucratic nonsense. And I was like, hold on a second, I'm signing these off for my trainees as a registrar. Anyway, long story short, that was the best option and outcome for me. And considering what's happening with GPs now. And then my partner at the time was a radiologist, Googled alternative careers, found OcMed, said, do you want to go and look at this? And I did, and I wasn't convinced, to be fair. I was like, I'm not sure about this, but I can see it affords a really great lifestyle, work-life balance. It gives you insight into business, and you know, I'll just give it a go and do the diploma as my backup in case it doesn't work. And that again was like 10 years ago.
Wow.
So yeah. So I mean, like that's the story of medic footprints and alternative careers. And the industry piece is, you know, in developing a business and developing my career and running, and you know, there's like an increasing realization that the mindset that you need to flourish and thrive in industry is very different from the mindset that's helped you to achieve what you've achieved as a doctor. And because we see more and more doctors transitioning between the two, it's really important that they grasp that early, because it will take a very, very, very long time, a lot of heartache, a lot of struggle. And actually industry are desperately needing like doctor talent and leadership. The problem is doctors at the moment chronically undervalue themselves because that's what they're used to in the public healthcare system. This isn't just a UK problem, by the way. This is a global problem.
It is.
And that should not be translated to undervaluing themselves in industry, because again, there's a huge risk of that happening. And that is an ongoing, that will be a huge problem if that continues in that way, because the value that doctors bring in industry is huge in so many different sectors. I need more doctors doing it in the right way, making the right impact, but without getting burnt out or you know, all of that stuff. So this is where the Doctors in Industry Fellowship has come about, is really creating that community, that like-minded support community, resources, roadmap, and training to support doctors with that move, because the framework that we've been given as doctors, you know, we've basically been spoon-fed, right? And you're like, if you do this, you'll get CCT. In industry, there's none of that. There's no clear pathway. There's no clear pathway. And you don't have to do anything in that sense. But what you do need to know is yourself. And not enough doctors know themselves.
Yes, your strength. I'm going to jump in there. That is already sort of like, I felt like I was drinking from a hose. There's a lot of great nuggets in there. So I'm just going to start. Basically, you seem to have taken quite a bit of you've gone out of the traditional pathway. That is obvious. You went off to South Africa. Not many people go off to South Africa.
Because everyone would go to Australia, right? And I'm like, I'm not going to Australia. How is that much different from what I'm experiencing here?
South Africa is different. You have a lot of different. You said you were thinking medicine or music, okay? If you're any musicians, and I have a few of them listening, in my class when I was in high school, I was one of the two people that was offering music. That was also sort of in the science classes, and you were deemed like you're a serious person. So why are you doing music? Because music was deemed as MUSIC, most useless subject in class. Okay. So you thought, all right, am I do medicine or am I do music? But you thought you did the sensible option, which is music, medicine. But it seems down the line decided, look, I'm going to quit my training job. I'm going to go to South Africa. I'm just going to stop doing what seems like the traditional, what people expect you to do. And your choice of going into medicine, even having all those talents and all those skills, how much of it was influenced by your background, like where you're coming from, family and all that? Did they have any bearing? I'm speaking from my perspective as a Nigerian-born doctor, where you're either a doctor, a lawyer, engineer, or a failure, or if you're an Indian software engineer.
I get that, and that definitely had a very, very strong part to play. So my background, my parents are Caribbean. My mum's from Jamaica. My
Yeah.
dad's from Nevis. Genetically, I'm 60% Nigerian and
Really?
West African. Yeah, genetically. There's also East Africa in me. There's also England, Scotland, Wales within me,
Wow.
and South Indian. I did my genetic heritage. But yeah, so most of it is West African, and you know why transatlantic slave trade.
Yeah, of
You know
course.
what I'm saying?
That's like this is 400 years.
Yeah. Actually, I did a paper on that on prostate when I was a urologist.
Wow.
Anyway,
I'm going
so
to look at that one. Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, and so our ancestors and family coming to this country, it's all about you need to get a good, secure, financially secure job.
Yeah.
Right. And because my mum saw that I was, and I say in inverted commas, clever.
Yeah.
And I say clever and like pick
Yeah.
things up very quickly. She was like, right, you're going to go to Oxbridge, you're going to do all this, you're going to do medicine, you're going to do law. And I am the first person I didn't go to Oxbridge because I really didn't believe that I could. And I ended up to go to Nottingham, which is like Oxbridge rejects, but that's another story.
You didn't go to Oxbridge? Oh,
I didn't go to Oxbridge. No. I'm very glad that I didn't, because I went to Nottingham, and Nottingham are for people who think outside of the box. So you'll see in the whole industry network of doctors, a lot of us came from Nottingham University.
Proud Nottingham alumni here. I didn't do my undergraduate there. When I said you didn't go to Oxbridge, I was just teasing you. Yeah, who needs to go to Oxbridge
Nottingham
when you can go to Nottingham University, big sprawling campus, fantastic,
Yeah, we're all outside of the box thinkers by nature. So Oxbridge would not really have worked for us. And that's how we ended up in Nottingham and then doing something completely different.
That's amazing. I mean, if you went to Oxbridge and you didn't have the opportunity to go to Nottingham, that's still all right. You can network with doctors who've been to Nottingham University if you go to alternative careers or doctors in industry. That will give you the opportunity to get that Nottingham juju.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, just going back to your question. It was very much like you need to just choose a career that's going to be stable and you're clever. And at the schools I went to private school, my primary school. I went to a state school for my secondary school, girls' school as well. And again, it's a school where you either do medicine or law.
Yeah,
that's what we're training me for. It's going to be one or the other.
And
actually, I actually nearly didn't get in to med school, and I didn't get into anywhere, to be honest. And it was like last minute when Nottingham called up and were like, "Yeah, we rejected too many people. So do you want to join?" And I'm like, "Okay." And I had no issue with my medical. I passed all my exams, no issue. 5 years of med school, and then so
it's just fascinating. There's so many ways we could go, but you think about your parents. They moved to this country. Were they first generation immigrants? So your parents. And they're thinking, what's that mindset? They're thinking, oh, you've got to go to Oxford or Cambridge, and there's just that high expectation. They're not thinking, well, we've just moved to this country, let's try to figure out a way. They're thinking, no.
Sorry, they were second generation. Sorry, because their parents were moved and then they moved.
But basically they're that thinking, Abeyna's got to go to Oxbridge. But that's been a fantastic journey. But you've gone from not just being a doctor, but being a doctor, leading millions of doctors in an industry and in an area that most doctors struggle. I'll give you a bit of an example. If you're listening to this and you're a doctor who wants to move an industry, I left medicine for 4 years. So after I worked I finished my first, we'll call it house job and all that, I went to work in an NGO. And during that period, I was building a business and doing several other stuff. I enjoyed it. It was fantastic. So that 2 years, I worked in an NGO. That's where I got a lot of training about leadership and structure, networking, partnership, collaboration. That was USID. I don't know if you know DFID. That's a British version.
DFID, yeah.
Yeah, so there's USID is US version. It was funded by DFID. USID, sorry. But when I came over to the UK, so I came back to medicine, because coming back to medicine, I saw a different aspect of medicine. 4 years later, when I came in, I realized that if you worked in medicine and you had the flexibility to choose when to come and go, if you weren't entirely dependent on medicine, if you felt you had options, I in my own experience, I started to enjoy it quite massively. I saw a different aspect of medicine. But then when I finished my master's, this was 4 years out of medicine, before deciding to come back to clinical medicine, obviously before the last 2 years ago when I left my salary GP job, I tried to get into industry. So that was how I started using LinkedIn. So I used LinkedIn a little bit, then went away and came back last year, thanks to Abeyna and some other people. So what I saw there, first of all, I made a spreadsheet. I did all the doctors in McKinsey or consulting firms where I wanted to go to. So I found them online and then cold DM them. So I've had businesses in the past all on campus, so I know how to do copy and all that stuff. Code DM them, and then I had like a 60% reply rate, and they were incredibly generous. And some of them would sort of say, "Oh, this is what I did." They gave me That's why when people code DM me, I try as much as possible to reply. I'm not always able to reply, especially if they're just trying to sell something. But when doctors or healthcare professionals trying to sort out their finance and all that stuff, I try very hard to reply. But they gave me such a detailed response. You have to do this. This doesn't work. But there didn't seem to be any structure. There wasn't any clear pathway. So that's why what you're doing in the medics footprint is almost like, okay, if you come into this for 12 months, in the next 12 months, you've got like a very high shot of getting into industry, something that is a black box. So tell me, if someone were to come into, let's say, doctors in industry, what should they expect to learn? First of all, what type of doctor do you think would be ideal for doctors in industry? This could save you several thousands of pounds, not just in your taxes and pensions. Have you fallen into the 60% tax trap as a doctor or healthcare professional without even knowing? It's crazy. I know you think the highest tax you can pay is 45%, but here's how it works. If your income exceeds 100,000, you start to lose your personal tax allowance, and by the time you hit about 125,000, you've lost your entire tax allowance. This means you're paying an effective tax rate of 60%. That's not good. You lose a lot of other benefits with it. Now, if it's something you've never thought about or you're worried you're not sure how to navigate it, you're in luck, because I've written a very clear guide with a 10-point checklist that you can use to avoid the 60% tax trap. One of the biggest ones is obviously paying more into your pension, but there are 9 other steps you can take. Check the link in the description and download it for free. Let me know if it helps. Let's jump right back into the episode.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I wanted to say, like, if you come on this program, we guarantee you'll move to industry, because we've seen consistently, we guarantee it. Yeah, life does not come with guarantees, but we guarantee it, because we've seen consistently over the last few years that doctors who engage with our roadmap and our program, they get into industry.
Right, I'm going
they achieve their goals.
You've just done something big. We're not going to gloss over it. So in marketing, medicine, nobody says 100%. But here's some BDE. Yeah, it's big doctor energy. She's guaranteeing that what did you think it was? This is big doctor energy, BDE. So Abeyna here is guaranteeing that if you come to doctors in industry, as an investor for many years, we always know that if someone says 100%, if you buy treasury bills or gilts, you get money back. That's low risk. So you're guaranteeing it. Fine. Now tell us, someone coming to doctors in industry, what's your ideal person coming to doctors in industry?
They're a doctor. They don't have to be a practicing doctor, but they've had to come from medicine.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what stage.
Yeah, they've been to med school.
Yeah. They don't need to have finished med school either.
Oh, okay.
It's just having been in med school at some point. To having worked as a doctor and stopped for whatever reason. So that's the key one. The other is they have to be motivated to develop their career in industry as a high value non-clinical expert. Value being key.
Sorry to interrupt there, because I've got a lot of doctors who listen to this podcast, and I suspect many of them will be interested. So I want to make sure we get it clearly. When you say motivated, what does that mean? How do you check that? It's a bit hard to
At the moment, a lot of doctors are moving changing careers because they hate the jobs they're in. There are lots of push factors from their current jobs, cultural issues, workforce issues, burnout, and that's fine. But we're looking for doctors who are motivated by the impact and the opportunities that they could get and really contribute towards at scale in industry, and they are committed to that journey rather than kind of not sure. Because I say that there is actually out of the population of doctors who are looking to move, we know from our research that they wait at least 2 to 5 years plus before they actually do anything about it. So for this program, we're after people who are doing things about it, actually taking action and implementing it. They also need to be coachable as well.
Okay.
And most
Okay.
doctors are,
Yeah.
but they've got to be
Yeah.
open to growth, personal
Yeah.
growth, not professional, personal
Personal.
growth
Yeah.
to achieve the goals that they have set themselves to achieve.
That's it. That makes it quite clear, isn't it? Because if somebody's already taking some steps, and one of the biggest indicators we saw we did our first investment masterclass, whatever.
Nice.
One of the biggest thing we saw is that 70% of the attendants had lost money in the past or tried to invest, and so basically they already saw the value in being trained to understand what they were doing as doctors. So it's quite telling that you've seen people who've tried maybe for 2 to 5 years. They already know, look, this stuff is hard.
No. So they haven't specifically tried. They've thought about it. They wanted to do it and done nothing.
Right. They just had thoughts about it.
So those are the people we cannot help.
We
need people who are like, have either started doing something. So what does that look like? They may have started setting up their business. They may have started networking, going to events. They may have applied for a lot of jobs and just not got anywhere with it.
Wow.
Or like at the beginning of the journey and they want to mitigate that journey and the risks involved of it taking longer on your own than it would be with actually that support and accountability and keeping people on track. Because for a lot of doctors, they're concerned about the financial risks of, I mean, like not everyone wants to leave entirely. A lot of people are doing it as a hybrid thing where they do some clinical. We don't. That's not important, but it's just mitigating that move so that they say, I've got this timeline. I want to make sure I'm in this role or in this opportunity by X date. That's who we can help.
Yeah. So this is someone who obviously is clearly motivated. They've got a doctor or they've been through medical school or had some medical background. They're clearly motivated. So it doesn't matter the level of medicine. They don't have to be a consultant or anything like that.
Oh God, no.
Okay.
No. Because again, like we're taking away those markers of hierarchy and credibility markers that we use, because actually that is not as important as you think it is in industry. What's important is really you recognizing where your own value is and elevating that and articulating that and selling that to the right people, to the right audience, and that's the key. And so that's why we're like, I always talk about doctors being qualification junkies. We are, and we're like, I'll be better enough if I get this qualification and that qualification and that MBA and all of that stuff. And yes, those things can be valuable, but that is not the most important thing in this journey, and it's not a must-have either.
That opens up a really key stuff here. I think last couple of weeks, I did a post on LinkedIn that sort of blew up, and I tagged it.
Oh, nice! I didn't see that. Which one was that?
The MBA
one.
I think you commented. So it was about
one.
doctors needing to do MBA because everyone said that. Oh, do I need to do an MBA? And people come to me. It's just crazy, right? Doctors being qualification junkies. Someone came to me. So I want to start a business, and they asked me, so how did you start? Do you think I need to do an MBA? Or then someone comes to do, I want to start investing. Do I need to go and take a course or different stuff? And I mean, most time they're thinking about paper qualification. So that's one thing I think doctors in the industry you're dealing with, because a lot of people think, I need to do an MBA. And while an MBA is great, I haven't done one. And as far as I can remember, you haven't done one, but you're sort of like helping several doctors in that area. So doctors think, I need to get my MBBS, then I need to get my master's. And I worked in public health before I got my master's in public health. So I knew you didn't need a master's in public health to work in that area. It's the same as business. Right. I know you've got a lot of fantastic, you've had a lot of people come out with testimonials and fantastic outcomes. I want you to give me the top 3. And the next 3 minutes, give me the top 3 that you're most proud of. I know you've mentioned your most proud achievement this year is running on Palma, Mallorca. I mean, there are worst ways to run a half marathon, but you've chosen a beautiful place to go run it. But now let's look at the achievement from doctors in industry, medic footprints, alternative careers in medicine. You've been doing it for 10 good years. So I want you to tell me 3 achievements you're most proud of, individual achievements.
I'd say the first one was running a conference. I've run a few conferences now, but the first conference we ran was probably one of the biggest, not having done event management before, by the way, or running an event. I remember the first conference in 2015 was at Greater Queen Street in the Great Connaught Rooms. We had like 400 doctors there, right? First ever conference, never had run a conference before, never, and what really stood out to me was like, there were lots of doctors around and it was great. There were lots of different tracks and they were crying. The doctors who were crying, it was such an emotional experience because they hadn't been in an environment where their thoughts and feelings were validated.
So this wasn't a conference then. This was more like a revival or religious crusade.
It was a conference. It was a gathering of people who wanted to do, doctors who wanted to do different things.
Wow.
Certain careers, and it was great to get everyone like-minded people in the same space.
Yeah.
So actually, I kind of look, because when you do it and you're like, oh, I've just done it, we've done it.
Yeah.
But actually, looking back, like a conference management and design and everything is like a skill in itself. This is something like we just did,
That's back to that theme of naivety again. You were
naivety, yeah, exactly.
I've seen that trend. Like, oh, no one told me it was hard, so I just did.
But I think
400 doctors.
This is the key, because, like, in this journey, there's lots of things that no one tells you is hard.
Yeah.
And in some ways, it's great that no one tells you that's hard, but in other ways, it's not so great that no one tells you it's hard, because especially when you keep on hitting roadblocks, and you see this especially in an industry setting where you don't have that kind of that structured path, and you keep on getting rejection after rejection after rejection, you don't seem to be getting anywhere. That feels like, oh, there's something wrong with me. Everyone else is like flying and they made it look so easy. Why is it that and the reality is it's not easy for anybody, but they just don't tell you that.
But the LinkedIn post.
Exactly. You see someone on LinkedIn, I got this fellowship, I got this job and this amazing, but they don't tell you about the shit they went through to get there. You don't hear that. And this is why in the podcast I'm like, no, tell me actually, what steps did you take? What challenges did you take?
I was on your podcast. You go quite nitty gritty, and I really enjoyed it, because anyone can come and make it 10-point steps. That is brilliant. So one, you're on this massive conference, IRL, because now IRL. IRL sounds like it's something cool, but 10 years ago, people actually met in real life. So you did this in real life. So it's not an online conference. Now, the second one, tell me somebody, or give me an idea, or somebody who's been through the program, who is flying. I know several. Tell me the one or one of them you're proudest of, or two. Well, I don't know. I'm asking you to choose between your children here.
I'll choose one of my first children.
Okay.
I mean, this is all very public. Lee, who's one of our founding fellows, started on the program, bariatric surgeon. Lee Humphreys wanted to develop himself in pharma as a advisor in the obesity space, kept on facing challenges of not being an endocrinologist.
Wow.
Yeah, so he'd faced a lot of roadblocks. He talked about this very openly on our podcast as well.
Right.
And for years, was trying to get into pharma. For years. And like a lot of doctors, like pharma, the problem with pharma is that it's very well established. Everyone knows pharma. Everyone knows the doctor's got into pharma. Therefore, everyone goes for pharma. Yeah. Because we've seen like a huge sea change of doctors going to pharma.
Yeah.
Now it's like, and because pharma isn't just about doctors and medical affairs roles, it's also pharmacists.
Yeah.
It's super competitive.
Okay.
Right? So it does take a lot longer, and because Lee had a very specific niche and interest area, just getting into the area actually was even harder.
Yeah.
And so he worked with us. We basically, a lot of the work we did with him was on his mindset.
Yeah.
On his approach and developing his profile, like outside of I just need to get a pharma job. Again, this is a very common thing that doctors come with. I just need to sort out my CV and then I'll be good enough.
Yeah.
Again, that is completely out of there. CVs are dead as far as I'm concerned.
CVs are dead. Dr. Abeyna Bubbers-Jones.
They are dead. They're like so naughty before. But anyway, and so, you know, we helped him develop his profile. So before he joined us was not on LinkedIn or only just joined.
Ooh.
And then, you know, over the space of a few months, he was posting on LinkedIn, really building up his authority and credibility as a person in this space with a specific link to pharma. So in that time, he got a number of consulting offers with big pharma companies.
Wow.
But it took at least a year and a half to actually get the job that he actually wanted. And it's something that he did interview for before. And because, the second time round, he knew the interviewer, and it was everything that he'd done in that time outside of, working Pharma that helped him to get the role. So as well as the personal branding piece is a huge part, because it was the LinkedIn posting, it was the commenting on certain topics, it was the podcast he launched with some medical students on called Beyond the Scales, and also the work he did with us, the networking, the mentorship he did with other doctors. He got known, his name got known. So it was inevitable. So we helped him to make it inevitable that he would get there.
This is amazing.
And that's what we're all about. It's like, how can we help your journey or your destination become inevitable through this process, rather than leaving it to chance and luck? And chance and luck definitely have a part. But at the same time, you need to put things in place, just like with our training program, so that if you do this and this and this, it's just guaranteed to happen as long as you keep persisting with it. That's the key, and the consistency is key.
Right. Now, this is just amazing, having that sort of clear example of someone. I'm just going to say this here. Environment dictates performance. It's very important. If you're in a group, we have a Moneywise Doctor Premium group, which we never talk about publicly, because it's self-selecting group. We invite people. So environment, you have those people. You're suddenly in a group where people are talking about investing and business and stuff like that. The same with you bringing Lee into your network, like doctors who come in there. You're no longer just doing it alone. You're doing it with a group of people who are really going to somewhere. You're sharing your wins. You're sharing your disappointment. Then the second thing I picked up from there was, he said there's luck and chance, but you want to reduce the chance. You want to increase the probability of getting into industry.
You increase your luck.
You increase your luck.
By working on it. And actually, I was talking to the doctor I was interviewing before about that. And Richard Branson talks about this. At the end of the day, a lot of Richard Branson's success is about being open to opportunities. And the reality is that, and the problem we face is actually that opportunities are limitless, and they're around us all the time. But most doctors cannot see them because they're not presented in a nice little package that's here's a job that's for you. And so this is why a lot of the work we do in the first two steps of our program is about clarity and mindset.
Clarity and mindset.
Your success.
What do you really want? Right. Okay. I think before we wrap up, I'm just going to hammer in on some things you just highlighted. Increasing your luck. So one of my buddies described increasing your luck as two things. You increase your skills, or you increase the surface area of luck. Skill and opportunity. So people always say when opportunities meet preparedness, then that's luck and all that. I know some people might disagree, but preparedness is gaining the skills, you're someone in the industry or something, learning how to improve your personal brand, change your shitty LinkedIn handle, make it something really good. Don't put MBBS, MPH, ROCGP and all that. Sort of say what you do, your expertise, improve your landing page and all that. So you're also learning how to talk, how to pitch, how to say what you do, basically also things like copy, or if you need to do a landing page, if you need to hire someone, or speaking on a podcast, that in itself is a skill. You've done it so many times. So that's you're preparedness. But there's also the other aspect, which is increasing your opportunity, the surface area, by posting out there so people see you, see what you do, networking events. Or if you live in Cornwall or Devon like me, and you don't fancy making a trip up to London all the time, then you might need to hop on calls like this. So that's really quite powerful. Now, do you have a third sort of thing you're very proud of? There's so many things you're proud of, obviously, but do you have a third example or something you want to share?
Well, I mean, I can talk about our other founding fellow, Carla, who actually had been a member of Medic Footprints from when we started, pretty much. And she's incredible from when we started, 10 years ago.
What's her surname? Carla what?
Carla Wright Allen.
Oh, yeah, so people can check on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Carla Wright Allen,
So Carla joined us as a GP trainee, with a real, someone, she lived on the Isle of Man, kind of and she's really interesting because, again, you have to really tease this out of her. Yeah. She was born in Barbados. I think her Jamaican background, studied medicine in Mexico,
lived
in like the Falkland Islands.
Oh, wow.
And then ended up in the UK somehow.
Wow.
And then she's like a
Exotic.
GP trainee. Yeah, GP trainee, right? And her real passion was developing her career as she really wanted to start her own business.
Yeah.
As a women's health coach, like women physicians coach, basically.
Okay.
And so we worked with her basically on her confidence and her approach.
Yeah.
And so within the year, she had positioned herself as a coach. She set up networking events.
Yeah.
She became a keynote speaker at a Santander event.
Oh, wow.
She quit her GP training as
Oh,
well.
wow.
These are decisions
you have that
that she
effect.
made. But at the end of the day, like, she made that decision for herself.
Yeah.
I mean, reality is, like, a lot of doctors that go through this are already burnt out.
Yeah.
Right. And that's part of the reason why they're looking for other options. And we talked about that earlier. And, I'm a specialist in work health.
Yeah.
And I do support people through that. But at the end of the day, whether they want to quit their job completely entirely their decision.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not there to tell them what to do.
Yeah, basically.
Right. But there to support them through that process.
Yeah.
So this program is not about leaving the NHS.
Okay.
It's about making an impact
And
in
having
the
options.
wider sector and developing more leaders.
Mm.
So we're all about transformation, and leadership comes from within. And so this isn't about an institution, or the institution is you. You are the institution, and that's what we're developing.
That's a big nugget. The institution is you. Now, you are the person doctors turn to build their personal brand. Even though I haven't been through doctors and industry, but it's obvious you drop a lot of nuggets, and you've had these doctors pass through. If a doctor were listening to this and wanted to start crafting their personal brand, what are the top 3 tips you might give? Just in case you're listening, and you didn't know, when Abeyna said she's a specialist in work wellness, she's actually a consultant, a proper consultant in occupational medicine, but she's also a LinkedIn top voice. So for it to be a LinkedIn top voice. So if a doctor wants to be out there and they want to start building their personal brand, obviously you deal with people, you already have value, you've got something to offer, and you're trying to build your personal brand. What are your top tips that you would suggest?
Again, it starts with the roadmap. It all starts with the roadmap. It's the clarity piece that is the most important thing. So you need to be clear about who you are, what your value is, and who is the audience that you're looking to attract. Yeah. Right.
The niche.
Once you've got that clear, exactly, and have a very specific niche. The more specific, the higher the value. I'll use an example. We have a GP on our program who came in, like a lot of doctors, wanted to do pharma.
Yeah.
And within a few weeks, like a lot of doctors decided not to do pharma. And interestingly enough, again, this is a short story commuted, decided one day that actually his passion was in music, and basically became the first ever music health tech specialist.
Wow.
Special advisor, right? This is something that he came up with himself, because similar to me, he came in from music and that was his passion. Yeah. And so he's really developing his profile. This is someone who, really, really struggled beforehand to really put themselves out there, like a lot of doctors have done. And now is absolutely, like, I see him face every day on LinkedIn posting, like literally his face, and then posting about this area, which is really unique. So as a result of him developing that niche, he's like the only one. So at the end of the day, because it's a very specific niche, he has a lot of power and influence in that area, because this is a growing area. So again, it's like, so when those companies, and because he's done that, companies that were in that area, like immediately you're like, okay, you're for us, let's have a conversation. Like, there's no ambiguity around it. Because the problem that we see, especially with doctors developing a personal brand, is they want to do health tech, right? And that's like a doctor saying, I want to do healthcare.
I think there's just 2 of us, maybe 3, who are not in health tech. Every other doctor. Shout out to all my mates in health tech.
I want to do pharma. Not good enough. I want to do consulting. Not good enough. Not good enough.
But health tech is
you
cool.
really have to be specific. And again, like, we're all about high value, high earning, like going on that pathway, because high value and high earning means you work smarter, you get more flexibility, you get more autonomy, you get more financial stability without burning yourself out. Right. So when you're looking at your personal brand, it is about, what is important to you, who are you serving? If like in the work that you did, if half the world experienced your work, what would that mean to the world? How would it change the world? And then you've got to be very clear on how you articulate that in your personal brand consistently throughout everything that you do. Personal brand isn't just LinkedIn, by the way. It's what you say, it's how you act, it's where you show up. It's, it's everything. You're living it. You live your personal brand. So yes, you can spend all your money doing a fancy website, and yes, that's all part of it, but that is not the main thing. Your personal brand is literally what you live and what you say and how you do it, and who you focus your energies on. So the more specific you are, the easier it is to actually go and do it. Because if you start being for everyone, then you're for no one.
That is really powerful advice. If you're for everyone, you're for no one. Niching down is something everybody who's had a business, I was in e-commerce, or you've had a business in the past, SaaS, whatever, that niche is so important. And that's something they don't teach us in med school. So niching down, top tip from Dr. Abeyna, who is sort of the queen of alternative careers for doctors. Niche down, but before you can niche down, you need clarity. So first of all, you need to work on yourself, understand your clarity, what's your vision, what do you want to achieve, and then who do you want to do it for? That's the niching down. That's really quite powerful. And number 3, rather than spend money on fancy branding projects, learn how to sort of like provide that value in a way while still networking. That's really powerful. I feel like if we had 3-4 hours, we'll probably still not be able to unpack everything you do. Maybe one of these days we'll be able to get into the nitty-gritty of the industry and the doctors in the industry. You're networking and you're partnering with so many companies. You've got a lovely new landing page, expertly done. It looks like
I'm really excited about that. It's taken a lot of work, a lot of iteration. And obviously working with Tiernan, who's a digital health. Digital lead. He's a medical student, by the way, guys.
We met up for coffee, and he's been on my podcast as well.
No, I'm like, listen, are you sure you want to finish med school?
He reminded me so much of myself in med school. I said, look, we need to catch up for coffee. And it's very cool about it. It's his lovely Irish accent.
Great.
That is a high converting website, and that's an opportunity for you to tell us how people can catch you. If people want to find you or they want to be part of what you're doing, they just, sometimes people look from far and try to figure out what's going on. Is it for me? So where can people find you, or doctors?
So for the Doctors in Industry Fellowship, the best place to go is go to medicfootprints.org/industry. And if you want to find me, I'm on LinkedIn. Abeyna, Abeyna. There's only one Abeyna.
Oh wow, I like that.
Bubbers-Jones. It's there's a brand in itself. So only one Abeyna.
You might become one of those people that go with one name, like Beyonce or Abeyna, Oprah.
I'm toying with that. We'll see.
Right, it's going to be on the screen. The link to the website, medicfootprint.org/doctors in industry. There's also a new landing page, doctorsinindustry.com.
doctorsinindustry.com /inquire.
Right. Okay. So if you look on the screen, it will be on the screen. I'm also going to pop it in the show notes. Well, Dr. Abeyna, thank you so much for sharing so much wisdom, so much insight, and a lot of your journey. I mean, we started from your run, having that half marathon, and gone through basically up and down. It's been a great pleasure having you on my podcast. I mean, I've been on yours, but it's different hearing your own story.
This has been really, really valuable to have this conversation, and we really went into the detail here. So I really appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Fantastic. Have you got any last word or sentences or anything you want to share with someone listening? Something you think, I could have said this, but this is important.
Yeah, it was something about, what is your currency moving forward in your career? Always think about what is your currency and what do you have that nobody can take away from you. And in my career, I was very conscious that GMC registration, regulatory, that can be taken away from you quite easily, right? Quite easily. So for me, it's all about future-proofing my career
Wow.
in a way that literally no one can take what I've built away from me. And again, that starts from me and the value that I hold within myself. And so I would definitely encourage doctors to think about that. Like, what is it that, because we're seeing doctors become redundant these days. Redundant.
Yeah, we're having GPs looking for work.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really important that as doctors we solidify our value in society, because it's gone down.
Yeah,
and that will continue until we get to a point where we value ourselves and we set our own value. That's where things need to change, because we need more leadership. And again, it all starts with you. What is it that people cannot take away from you? And this is why I'm very much like, don't rely on qualifications, because you can take that away from you.
is that why people were crying in your event? There you go, guys. She left the best for the last.
Yeah.
Really quite important. That actually is very, very, it resonates with me. What is it that you've got that people can't take away from you? I mean, beyond your license and everything. So have a think about that and check out Dr. Abeyna's website and her LinkedIn profile. She drops really good nuggets. Well, thank you for coming over, and thank you for being on the Moneywise Doctor Podcast. And till next time.
Thank you so much, Andy. Yeah, great time. Enjoyed it. Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye.